refusing to pay my sister's loans after learning she's secretly close with my ex's wife. I always thought I had it all figured out. College sweethearts, you know? That's what everyone called us. Mike and I met when we were 20, both studying at the same university. He was this sweet, nerdy guy who actually listened when I talked about my dreams of becoming a teacher. I was head over heels from day one. We did everything together back then. Study sessions that turned into late-night conversations about everything and nothing. Weekend trips to his hometown where his mom would make us her famous apple pie and tell embarrassing stories about his childhood. I felt like I belonged somewhere, like I had found my person. After graduation, we moved in together. A tiny apartment with a leaky faucet and neighbors who played music too loud, but it was ours. Mike got a job at a tech company, and I started teaching 3rd grade at the local elementary school. Life felt perfect in that simple, everyday kind of way. The proposal came 2 years later. Nothing fancy, just Mike getting down on one knee in our cramped living room after I came home from a particularly rough day at school. He had this nervous smile and kept fumbling with the ring box. "I know this isn't the most romantic place," he said, "but this is where we built our life together, and I want to keep building it with you." I said yes before he even finished asking. Our wedding was small but beautiful. My sister Emma, who was just 18 then, was my maid of honor. She looked so young and happy in her pink dress, tears streaming down her face as she watched me walk down the aisle. Mike's family welcomed me with open arms. His parents treated me like their own daughter, and his younger brother Jake would joke that I was the sister he never had. The first few years of marriage were everything I had dreamed of. We bought a small house in the suburbs with a little garden where I could grow tomatoes and flowers. Mike would come home from work and find me covered in dirt, and he would laugh and kiss me anyway. We talked about having kids, about growing old together, about all the adventures we would have. When I got pregnant with our son Tommy, Mike was over the moon. He read every parenting book he could get his hands on, painted the nursery himself, and talked to my belly every night before bed. "Hey there, little guy," he would whisper. "Your mom and I can't wait to meet you." Tommy was born on a rainy Tuesday in April, the most beautiful baby I had ever seen, with Mike's dark hair and my green eyes. Mike cried when he held him for the first time, and I knew in that moment that we were going to be okay. We were going to be a family. Those early years with Tommy were exhausting, but wonderful. Mike was such a good father, always eager to help with feedings and diaper changes. He would get up for the middle of the night crying sessions without complaint, singing off-key lullabies until Tommy fell back asleep. Emma would visit often, bringing gifts for Tommy and helping me with household chores. She adored her nephew and would spend hours playing with him, making silly faces until he giggled. Life felt stable and happy. I had my teaching job, which I loved, and Mike's career was taking off. He got promoted to a senior position at his company, which meant longer hours but also better pay. We could finally afford to take real vacations, to fix up the house the way we wanted, to start saving for Tommy's college fund. I trusted Mike completely. That sounds naive now, but back then, it felt natural. He was my best friend, my partner, the father of my child. When he started working late more often, I didn't question it. When he seemed distant or tired, I figured it was just stress from his new responsibilities at work. When he stopped initiating conversations about our future plans, I told myself it was just a phase. Emma was in college by then, studying business at a university about 3 hours away. She would come home for holidays and summers, and Tommy would light up whenever he saw his aunt. She was like a big sister to him, always, bringing him new books and toys, always ready to play whatever game he wanted. Mike's family still felt like my family. His parents would invite us over for Sunday dinners, and we would all sit around their big dining room table, laughing and sharing stories. His mom would always save me an extra piece of dessert, and his dad would ask about my students, and genuinely listen to my answers. Jake had gotten married the year before, and his wife Lisa was sweet and funny. We would all get together for holidays and birthdays, and it felt like we were all connected, like we were all part of something bigger. I thought this was it. I thought this was my forever. Mike, Tommy, our little house, our extended family, our simple but happy life. I was 37 years old, and I felt like I had everything I could ever want. But I was wrong. So very wrong. The first sign something was off came when Mike started working even later. Not just an hour or two, but until 8 or 9 at night. He would come home exhausted, barely able to have a conversation over dinner. When I asked about his day, he would give me short, vague answers. Just busy, he would say, lots of projects. Then there were the weekend work calls. Mike would step outside to take them, saying he needed quiet to focus. Sometimes these calls would last for hours, and when he came back inside, he would seem almost guilty, like he had been caught doing something wrong. I started noticing other changes too. Mike had always been a casual dresser, but suddenly he was paying more attention to his appearance. New shirts, nicer cologne, a haircut that cost twice as much as his usual one. When I complimented him, he would shrug it off and say something about wanting to look professional for work. The worst part was how he started pulling away from me emotionally. We used to talk about everything, our days, our dreams, our fears. Now our conversations felt strained and superficial. He would nod along when I told him about my students or about something funny Tommy had done, but I could tell he wasn't really listening. His mind was somewhere else. I tried to bring it up a few times, asking if everything was okay, if there was anything he wanted to talk about. He would always insist that everything was fine, that he was just stressed about work. Things will calm down soon, he would promise. Just give me a little more time. So I did. I gave him time, I gave him space, I gave him the benefit of the doubt. I kept taking care of Tommy, kept teaching my students, kept maintaining our household and our social connections. I told myself that every marriage goes through rough patches, that this was just temporary. But deep down, I knew something was wrong. I could feel it in the way he avoided eye contact, in the way he would tense up when I hugged him, in the way he seemed to be living a completely separate life that I wasn't part of. I just had no idea how wrong I was about to discover. Everything really was. The truth has a way of revealing itself when you least expect it. For me, it happened on a Thursday afternoon in October. Tommy was 6 years old then, full of energy and questions about everything. I had picked him up from school and we were heading home when he started talking about his day. "Mom, do you know Miss Jessica?" he asked from his car seat, swinging his little legs back and forth. I glanced at him in the rearview mirror. "No, honey. Who's Miss Jessica? She's really pretty and nice. She bought me ice cream when Daddy took me to his work last weekend." My heart stopped. Mike had told me he was taking Tommy to the office for a few hours on Saturday to catch up on some urgent project. He said it would be boring, just the two of them, but Tommy liked seeing where his father worked. "Tommy, sweetie, are you sure?" Her name was Jessica. "Yeah, she has long brown hair and she smells like flowers." She gave me a hug and said I was cute like my daddy. I pulled into our driveway and sat there for a moment, my hands shaking on the steering wheel. There was probably an innocent explanation. Maybe Jessica was just a coworker who happened to be at the office that day. Maybe she was being friendly to the boss's kid. Maybe I was overthinking everything. But the seed of doubt had been planted, and it grew quickly. That evening, I tried to casually bring up Tommy's day. He mentioned meeting someone named Jessica at your office. Mike's face went pale for just a second before he recovered. "Oh yeah, she's just a junior developer on my team. She was working late and happened to be there when we stopped by. She bought him ice cream. There's a vending machine in the break room. She was just being nice." His answers were too quick, too rehearsed. I nodded and changed the subject, but I could see the tension in his shoulders. The way he avoided looking directly at me. Over the next few weeks, I started paying closer attention to the little things. The way Mike would check his phone constantly and quickly put it away when I walked into the room. The way he would shower immediately after coming home from work, even if he hadn't been doing anything physically demanding. The way he would leave for work earlier and come home later, always with explanations about meetings and deadlines. I tried to push my suspicions away. Mike was a good man, a good father, a good husband. We had been together for over 15 years. He wouldn't cheat on me. He wouldn't destroy our family. He loved me, loved Tommy, loved the life we had built together, but the signs kept adding up. New clothes that he claimed were required for client meetings. A sudden interest in going to the gym, something he had never cared about before. Long phone calls that he would end abruptly when I walked into the room. Weekend work trips that seemed to happen more and more frequently. The breaking point came in November. I was doing laundry when I found a receipt in Mike's pants pocket. It was from an expensive restaurant downtown, the kind of place he would normally complain was too fancy and overpriced. The receipt was for 2 people, with 2 glasses of wine and dessert. It was dated from the previous Tuesday, a day when Mike had told me he was working late and grabbed fast food at the office. I sat on our bedroom floor, staring at that piece of paper, feeling like my world was crumbling around me. This was it. This was the proof I hadn't wanted to find. Mike was having an affair. I confronted him that night after Tommy went to bed. I walked into our living room where he was watching television, the receipt clutched in my trembling hand. "Can you explain this?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. He looked at the receipt and I watched his face go through a series of emotions. Surprise, guilt, panic. and then something that looked almost like relief. I can explain, he said, but his voice was flat, like he was already defeated. Please do. I sat down across from him, my heart pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. He was quiet for a long moment, staring at his hands. When he finally looked up at me, his eyes were filled with something I had never seen before. Not quite guilt, not quite sadness. It was almost like pity. Her name is Jessica, he said quietly. She works at my company. She's 24. The words hit me like a physical blow. I had known somewhere deep down, but hearing him say it out loud made it real in a way that nothing else could. How long? I managed to ask. 6 months. 6 months. 6 months of lies, of pretending, of me believing that we were just going through a rough patch. 6 months of him coming home to me and Tommy after spending time with her. Do you love her? The question came out before I could stop it. He nodded, not meeting my eyes. I'm sorry, I tried really hard not to fall for her, but I did. That was it. No big emotional breakdown, no begging for forgiveness, no promises to end it and work on our marriage. Just a simple admission that he had fallen in love with someone else and was sorry about it. What about us? I asked, gesturing to the family photos on the mantle, to the life we had built together. What about Tommy? I don't know, he said. I honestly don't know. I stared at him, this man I had loved for over half my life, and realized I didn't recognize him anymore. The Mike I had married would have fought for our family. The Mike I had married would have been devastated by the thought of hurting me and Tommy. This version of Mike seemed almost eager to be done with the conversation. Like he was relieved to finally have everything out in the open. I think you should leave, I said, my voice surprisingly steady. Tonight? Yes, tonight. He nodded and stood up, like he had been waiting for permission. I'll come back tomorrow to get some clothes and talk to Tommy. Fine. He packed a bag, quickly moving around our bedroom like he was in a hurry to escape. I sat on the couch in the living room, staring at the wall, trying to process what had just happened. 20 minutes later, he was gone. I didn't cry that night. I was too shocked, too numb to feel anything. I just sat in our empty house, listening to the silence and trying to figure out what I was going to tell our 6-year-old son. The next morning, Mike came back as promised. He sat Tommy down and explained, in simple terms, that Mommy and Daddy were going to live in different houses now, but that they both loved him very much and nothing was his fault. Tommy cried. He asked why, asked if he had done something wrong, asked if Daddy was coming back. Mike held him and promised that he would see him all the time, that they would still do fun things together, that everything would be okay. But I could see it. In Mike's eyes, he was already gone. He was already thinking about his new life with Jessica, about the future they were going to build together. Tommy and I were just loose ends that needed to be tied up. Over the next few weeks, Mike moved out completely. He rented an apartment across town and started the process of filing for divorce. He didn't fight me on anything. He didn't ask for custody beyond weekends and holidays. He didn't argue about the house or the money or any of the practical details that needed to be sorted out. It was like he couldn't wait to be free of us. Dawn Emma came home from college. As soon as I told her what was happening, she held me while I finally cried, brought me tea and tissues, and helped me explain to Tommy why his daddy wasn't living with us anymore. I can't believe he would do this to you, she said, tears in her own eyes. I thought he was better than this. So did I. The months following Mike's departure were the darkest period of my life. I had to learn how to be a single mother while dealing with my own heartbreak and sense of betrayal. Tommy was struggling too, crying for his daddy and asking questions. I didn't know how to answer. The divorce process was surprisingly quick. Mike wanted it over with as much as I did, though for different reasons. He got a lawyer, I got a lawyer, and we divided up 15 years of shared life, like we were splitting up a business partnership. The house would be mine, along with primary custody of Tommy. Mike would pay child support and get Tommy every other weekend and alternating holidays. Emma was incredible during this time. She would drive home from college almost every weekend to help with Tommy and to make sure I was eating and taking care of myself. She would bring groceries, help with laundry, and spend hours playing with Tommy so I could have a few moments to myself. You're going to get through this, she would tell me during my worst moments. You're stronger than you know. I didn't feel strong. I felt broken and humiliated and completely lost. I had to tell my family and friends what had happened. Had to endure the awkward conversations and pitying looks. Some people were supportive, but others seemed to think I must have done something wrong, that there must have been problems in our marriage that I wasn't acknowledging. The worst part was running into people who knew Mike and Jessica, his coworkers, mutual friends, people from around town who had heard the gossip. I could see it in their eyes. The judgment and speculation. Some people actually seemed to think the whole situation was romantic, like Mike and Jessica were some kind of star-crossed lovers who couldn't help falling for each other. One of our old friends, Rachel, actually said to me, "I don't support cheating, but I mean, look at her. She's so young and pretty, it's not really surprising." I ended that friendship immediately. I couldn't be around people who thought my pain was justified because Mike's affair partner was attractive. I couldn't handle the implication that I somehow deserved this because I wasn't good enough, wasn't young enough, wasn't pretty enough. I started seeing a therapist, Dr. Martinez, who helped me work through the anger and hurt. She taught me coping strategies and helped me understand that Mike's choices were about him, not about any failing on my part. You can't control other people's actions, she would remind me. You can only control how you respond to them. It took months, but slowly. I started to rebuild my life. I focused on my job, on being the best mother I could be to Tommy, on rediscovering who I was outside of being Mike's wife. I started exercising, took up gardening again, and began reading for pleasure instead of just grading papers. Tommy was resilient in the way that children often are, but he still had tough days. He would ask when Daddy was coming home, or cry because he missed the way things used to be. Mike was consistent with his visits, which I was grateful for, but I could tell that Tommy was confused by the whole situation. "Why does Daddy have a new house?" he asked me one day. "Sometimes grown-ups decide they need to live separately," I explained. "But Daddy still loves you very much. Does he still love you?" That question broke my heart. "Daddy and I love each other differently now, sweetheart. But we both love you the same as always." Mike seemed happy in his new life. I tried not to think about it, but it was impossible to completely avoid hearing updates. They were living together now, Jessica and Mike. She had moved into his apartment, and according to Tommy, she was really nice and made good pancakes. I hated hearing about her, but I tried to be mature about it for Tommy's sake. If she was going to be part of his life, I wanted her to be kind to him. I swallowed my pride and my hurt and focused on what was best for my son. A year after the divorce was finalized, I heard through the grapevine that Mike and Jessica were engaged. The news hit me harder than I expected. I had thought I was over the worst of it, but hearing that they were taking that next step felt like a fresh wound. Emma was there for me through that rough patch too. She had graduated from college by then and was working at a marketing firm in the city, but she still made time to visit regularly and check on Tommy and me. "He's an idiot," she said bluntly when I told her about the engagement. "He threw away everything good in his life for some young woman who probably doesn't even know who she is yet." I appreciated her loyalty, but I was trying to move past the bitterness. Dr. Martinez had helped me understand that holding on to anger was only hurting me. I needed to let go, to forgive Mike for my own peace of mind, and to focus on building a new life for myself and Tommy. The wedding happened 2 years after our divorce. I didn't go, obviously, but I heard about it from various sources. It was a small ceremony, just family and close friends. Mike's parents were there, of course, and so was his brother Jake. People who had once been like family to me were celebrating his new beginning while I was still trying to figure out mine. Tommy came back from that weekend visit full of stories about the wedding. He had been the ring bearer, dressed in a little tuxedo that Jessica had picked out for him. He seemed excited about the whole thing, which I tried to be happy about, even though it hurt. Jessica looked really pretty in her dress, he told me, and she said I was the best ring bearer ever. I smiled and nodded, swallowing down the complex emotions that news brought up. I was glad that Tommy had felt included and special, but it was hard to hear about Mike's perfect day with his new wife. A year later, Jessica got pregnant. Tommy was excited about getting a little brother or sister, and I tried to share his enthusiasm. It was another reminder that Mike had completely moved on, that he was building a new family while I was still trying to rebuild myself. The baby was born when Tommy was 9, a little girl they named Sophie. Tommy adored her from the moment he met her, and he would come home from his weekends with Mike full of stories about his baby sister. "She's so little, Mom," he would say, his eyes wide with wonder, "and she has the tiniest fingers." I was genuinely happy that Tommy had this new relationship, this new person to love. But it was also a constant reminder of the life that Mike had chosen instead of the one we had built together. 5 years had passed since Mike left, and I had made real progress. I was dating again, slowly and carefully, but I was open to the possibility of finding love again. I had a good relationship with Tommy, who was thriving in school and had adjusted well to our new normal. I had rebuilt my friendships and my sense of self. But there were still moments when the old hurt would surface. When I would see Mike and Jessica together at Tommy's school events, looking happy and content. When I would hear about their family vacations or their new house or their perfect little life, I had worked so hard to move forward, to let go of the past, to focus on my own happiness. I thought I had succeeded. I had no idea that the worst betrayal was still to come. Life had finally started to feel normal again. Tommy was 11 now. A bright and funny kid who split his time between Mike's house and mine with the ease of someone who had grown up with divorced parents. I had been promoted to head of the English department at my school, and I was even seeing someone new. A kind, divorced father named Paul who understood the complexities of blended families. Emma had been my rock through all of it. She visited regularly, took Tommy on fun outings, and had become the cool aunt who spoiled him with books and video games. She was 28 now, working as a marketing manager and living in an apartment downtown. She had always been close to Tommy, but their relationship had deepened after the divorce. She was one of the few constants in his life, and I was grateful for the stability she provided. I had been helping Emma with her student loans since she graduated. She had taken on quite a bit of debt to get her business degree, and with her entry-level salary, the payments were a real struggle. It wasn't a huge amount for me, about $400 a month, but it made a significant difference in her life. She was always grateful and promised to pay me back once she got more established in her career. I don't know what I would do without you, she would say whenever I transferred the money. You're the best sister ever. I was happy to help. Emma had been there for me during the worst time of my life, and this felt like a small way to repay her kindness and support. Last Tuesday started like any other day. I was grading papers at my kitchen table when Emma stopped by after work. She seemed tired and stressed, complaining about a difficult project at work and a coworker who was making her life miserable. I think I need a vacation, she said, flopping down on my couch. Somewhere warm where I can just lie on a beach and forget about everything. That sounds nice, I said, looking up from my papers. Maybe we could plan a sister trip sometime. Emma smiled and nodded, but she seemed distracted. She kept checking her phone, typing quick responses to messages. After about an hour, she got up to leave. I should head home, she said. Early meeting. Tomorrow. As she was gathering her things, her phone slipped out of her purse and landed on the floor. I picked it up and was about to hand it back to her when I noticed she had already walked out the door. I could hear her car starting in the driveway. I figured she would realize she had left it and come back. So I set the phone on the counter and went back to my grading. But an hour passed and she didn't return. I thought about calling her, but then I realized she wouldn't be able to answer. The phone kept lighting up with notifications, text messages, social media alerts, email notifications. I tried to ignore it, but eventually the constant buzzing became too distracting. I picked up the phone, thinking I would just turn it on silent mode. That's when I saw the name on the screen. Jessica. My heart stopped. There was a text message from Jessica, Mike's wife, visible on the lock screen. It was just a preview, but I could see enough to know it was a friendly, casual message. Something about getting lunch next week. I stared at the phone, my hands shaking. Why would Jessica be texting my sister? How did they even know each other? I knew I shouldn't look, but I couldn't help myself. I swiped to open the message, and Emma's phone wasn't password protected. The text thread opened, and I saw months and months of conversations between Emma and Jessica. My vision blurred as I scrolled through the messages. They weren't just casual acquaintances. They were friends, close friends. They talked about everything: work, relationships, family drama, weekend plans. They shared photos and jokes and inside references that showed they spent real time together. The messages went back years. Emma had been talking to Jessica regularly since not long after Mike and I divorced. They had coffee dates, shopping, trips, girls, nights out. Jessica shared pictures of Sophie, and Emma responded with the kind of enthusiasm reserved for close friends. I kept scrolling, each message feeling like a physical blow. There were conversations about Mike, about me, about Tommy. Jessica complained about having to deal with the ex-wife at school events. Emma offered sympathy and support, agreeing that I could be difficult sometimes. She's still so bitter about everything. Jessica had written a few months ago, I know Mike feels bad about how things ended, but she makes every interaction so awkward. I know. Emma had replied, I love my sister, but she has a hard time letting go of things. She's been seeing a therapist, but I don't think it's helping. Much I felt sick. My own sister, talking about me like I was some kind of problem to be managed. Discussing my private struggles with the woman who had destroyed my marriage. There were photos too. Jessica and Emma at restaurants, at concerts. At Jessica's house, pictures of Emma holding Sophie, playing with her in the park, reading her bedtime stories. Emma had been present for milestones in this child's life, had been acting like an aunt to Mike's daughter, while I had no idea any of this was happening. The worst part was how happy they looked together. Emma's face in those photos showed genuine affection and joy. This wasn't some casual friendship or a relationship she had been forced into. She genuinely cared about Jessica and Sophie. She had chosen them. I sat at my kitchen table, staring at that phone, feeling like my entire world had shifted. Emma had been my closest support system through the divorce and the years that followed. She had held me while I cried, had reassured me that I was better off without Mike, had helped me rebuild my confidence and my life. And the entire time, she had been maintaining a close friendship with the woman who had taken my husband. About all the times Emma had come to visit, all the conversations we had had about Mike and Jessica, all the moments when she had comforted me and told me I deserved better. She had been lying to me the entire time. Not just lying by omission, but actively deceiving me. When Emma realized she had left her phone and came back to get it, I was still sitting at the kitchen table, the phone in my hands. She walked in through the front door, calling out my name. "I'm so sorry," she said, walking into the kitchen. "I can't believe I forgot my phone." I was halfway home before I realized. I looked up at her. This person I had trusted more than anyone else in the world, and felt like I was seeing her for the first time. "We need to talk," I said quietly. She must have seen something in my expression because her face immediately became wary. "What's wrong?" I held up the phone. I saw the messages from Jessica, the color drained from her face. For a moment, she just stood there, and I could see her mind racing, trying to figure out how to handle this. "I can explain," she said finally. "Please do." She sat down across from me, looking anywhere but at my face. "It's not what you think. What I think is that you've been friends with my ex-husband's wife for years and never told me. What I think is that you've been lying to me while I've been helping you pay your student loans and treating you like my closest confidant. I didn't mean for it to happen," she said, her voice small. After the divorce, I ran into Jessica at the grocery store. We started talking, and she seemed really nice. She was new to town, didn't know many people. I felt sorry for her. You felt sorry for her. She was going through a hard time too. People were judging her for the affair, calling her a home wrecker. She was young and scared and didn't have any friends. I stared at her in disbelief. "So you decided to be her friend? Behind my back?" "I thought it would just be casual, like we would say hi if we saw each other around town. But then we started texting, and she was so sweet and funny. She made me laugh, and she was genuinely interested in my life. It felt natural." "For 6 years, Emma, you've been lying to me for 6 years." "I wasn't lying. I just didn't tell you about it because I knew you would be upset." "Of course I would be upset. She destroyed my marriage." "She didn't destroy your marriage," Emma said, her voice getting stronger. "Your marriage was already broken. Mike was unhappy, and Jessica just happened to be there when he was ready to leave." I felt like she had slapped me. "Are you seriously defending her right now?" "I'm not defending anyone. I'm just saying that relationships are complicated. And maybe if you could try to see Jessica as a person instead of just as the woman who took Mike, you might understand why I care about her." "I don't want to understand. I don't want to see her as a person. I want my sister to be on my side." "I am on your side," Emma said, reaching across the table to touch my hand. I pulled away. "I love you, and I want you to be happy. But I also care about Jessica and Sophie. They're part of Tommy's life now, and they're part of mine." "Did you ever think about how this would make me feel? Did you ever consider that maybe, just maybe, maintaining a secret friendship with a woman who had an affair with my husband might hurt me? I knew you would be hurt, and I'm sorry about that. But I also knew you would never give her a chance if you knew the truth. You would have asked me to choose between you and her. And that's not fair. It's not fair. Emma, she slept with my husband while I was home taking care of our son. She broke up our family, and you think it's unfair for me to ask you to choose between us. That was 6 years ago. At some point, you have to move on." Those words hit me like a physical blow. Move on. Like my pain was just an inconvenience that I should get over for everyone else's comfort. "I want you to leave," I said quietly. "Come on, don't be like this. We can work through this. I want you to leave, and I want you to know that I'm done. With the money for your loans, with our relationship, with everything. I'm cutting you off completely." Emma's face went pale. "You can't be serious." "I'm completely serious. You made your choice, and now I'm making mine. But I'll be financially screwed without your help. You know I can't make the loan payments on my own. Then maybe you should have thought about that before you decided to betray me. I didn't betray you. I just became friends with someone you don't like. Get out, Emma. Get out now. She stood up slowly, tears in her eyes. This is a mistake. You're going to regret this. The only thing I regret is trusting you. After she left, I sat in my empty kitchen and cried harder than I had in years. It felt like losing Mike all over again, but worse. Mike had been my husband, but Emma was my sister. She was supposed to be on my side no matter what. She was supposed to be the one person I could count on. I called my parents the next day to tell them what had happened. I thought they would be as shocked and hurt as I was. Instead, they took Emma's side. You're being too harsh, my mother said. Emma is young, and she was just trying to be kind to someone who needed a friend. She lied to me for 6 years. Mom, she didn't lie. She just didn't tell you something she knew would upset you. That's the same thing. No, it's not. And honestly, maybe it's time you stopped being so angry about the divorce. It's been 6 years. Mike has moved on, and maybe you should too. Even my own parents thought I was being unreasonable. They thought I should just accept that my sister had chosen to be friends with the woman who had destroyed my marriage. They thought I should be mature enough to handle it. Maybe they're right. Maybe I am being petty and bitter and unable to let go of the past. Maybe I should be bigger than this. Should be able to separate my feelings about Jessica from Emma's right to choose her own friends. But I can't. I can't pretend that this doesn't hurt. I can't pretend that Emma's betrayal doesn't cut just as deep as Mike's did. I can't pretend that I'm okay with being surrounded by people who think my pain is less important than everyone else's comfort, so I'm sticking to my decision. Emma can be friends with Jessica if she wants to, but she can't be friends with both of us. She made her choice when she decided to keep their friendship secret for 6 years. Now I'm making mine. I know everyone thinks I'm being cruel and bitter. Maybe I am. But after everything I've been through, I refuse to let anyone, even my own sister, betray me and still expect to stay in my life. I deserve better than that. Tommy has been asking why Aunt Emma doesn't visit anymore. I told him that sometimes adults have disagreements and need space from each other. He's too young to understand the full situation, but he's old enough to sense that something has changed, that it breaks my heart that he's losing his aunt because of this. Emma was such a big part of his life, and now that's gone too. But I can't pretend that everything is fine when it's not. I can't keep someone in my life who has shown me that my feelings and my trust don't matter to them. I've been thinking a lot about loyalty lately, about what it means to have someone's back, to be there for them when they need you most. Emma was there for me physically after the divorce, but emotionally, she had already chosen Jessica's side. She was playing both sides, trying to maintain relationships with everyone while being honest with no one. I don't know if I'll ever be able to forgive her. The hurt runs too deep, and the betrayal feels too complete. She didn't just lie to me. She made me feel stupid for trusting her. Every time I cried on her shoulder about Mike and Jessica, she was probably thinking about her lunch plans with Jessica the next day. Paul has been supportive through all of this. He understands betrayal. His ex-wife cheated on him too, and he knows how hard it is to rebuild trust after something like that. He doesn't think I'm being unreasonable for cutting Emma off. He says that sometimes you have to protect yourself, even from family. You've been through enough, he told me. You don't have to keep people in your life who hurt you, no matter who they are. I'm trying to focus on the positive things in my life. My relationship with Tommy is stronger than ever. My work is fulfilling and I'm good at it. I have a few close friends who have proven themselves to be loyal and trustworthy. I have Paul, who treats me with kindness and respect. But there's still a part of me that feels incredibly alone. I lost Mike. I lost his family. I lost most of our mutual friends. And now I've lost Emma too. It feels like everyone I once considered family has chosen someone else over me. I know this makes me sound bitter and self-pitying, and maybe I am. But I'm also tired of being the one who's expected to be understanding and forgiving, while everyone else gets to do whatever they want, without consequences. Emma has made her choice. She's chosen Jessica and Sophie and the life that Mike built after he left us. She's chosen to be part of their family instead of protecting her own sister. And I've made my choice too. I'm choosing to surround myself with people who value loyalty and honesty. I'm choosing to protect my peace and my emotional well-being. I'm choosing to teach Tommy that actions have consequences, even when they come from people you love. Maybe someday I'll be able to forgive Emma. Maybe someday I'll be able to understand why she felt the need to maintain a friendship with Jessica. Maybe someday I'll be able to look back on this whole situation with more perspective and less pain. But that day isn't today. Today, I'm still angry and hurt and disappointed. Today, I'm still mourning the loss of another person I trusted. Today, I'm still trying to figure out how to move forward without my sister in my life. I know people will judge me for this decision. They'll say I'm being too harsh, too unforgiving, too stuck in the past. But I've learned that I can't live my life trying to meet other people's expectations of how I should handle my own pain. I'm doing what I need to do to protect myself and my son. I'm setting boundaries that I should have set years ago. I'm refusing to be the understanding, accommodating ex-wife and sister who just accepts whatever treatment she gets. Emma will figure out her student loans. She's smart and capable, and she'll find a way to manage without my help. Maybe this will teach her that keeping secrets and betraying trust has real consequences. As for me, I'm going to keep building the life I want. A life surrounded by people who choose me, who value me, who wouldn't dream of maintaining secret friendships with people who have hurt me. A life where I don't have to constantly wonder who I can trust and who might be lying to me. I'm done being the victim in this story. I'm done being the one who gets left behind while everyone else moves on to better things. I'm choosing myself, and I'm choosing Tommy. And I'm choosing the people who have proven that they deserve a place in our lives. Emma is not one of those people. Not anymore.